So this is the rig that I use to fish for carp about 99% of the time. And in most of my videos I usually talk about what bait I use, but I don't regularly talk about the rig. And that's primarily because I use the same rig 99% of the time. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over the rig and what it's made up of. And after the general overview, I'm just going to go through each component and provide a little bit more explanation of kind of the why it's set up this way. So to get started, we've got a hair rigged hook here, as you can see, and this is a 30-pound braid that I use for the line on these hair rigs. This is a size 4 hook. And we'll come back to the hook in a little bit. So the hair rig hook goes up a short 2.5 inch leader here of that 30-pound braid up to a small barrel swivel. The barrel swivel attaches to the main line here, and on the main line is this spring feeder. This is a sliding spring feeder, has a straw in the middle that slides up and down the line, but I don't let it slide, and you'll see that in a second here. So above this spring feeder is a 1-ounce egg sinker, also slides on the line. And to keep the spring feeder and the egg sinker from sliding, I have a small split shot crimped onto the line there. So that's the rig in its entirety, and we'll go back down here and start here and go back up and discuss every component in this rig and some options for maybe doing something a little bit differently or alternative to different parts, and why I have it rigged up this way. So with the hair rig, as I said, this is 30-pound braided line here, and I have a video that is specific to how I do these hair rigs, and I'll put a link to that probably on the screen now and definitely in the description. And basically I make these ahead of time, these hair rigs. This hair rig and the hook and the leader and the swivel, I make these all in one piece ahead of time. I make them ahead of time and I keep them stored on this little rubber tube here. You can see I've got hooks and the short leader and the swivels. So I have these pre-made ahead of time. So when I need to retie or change out a hook or something, I just grab one of these out of my tackle box and retie it to the main line. So starting with the hook, this is a laser sharp octopus hook, size 4. Those are made by Eagle Claw. And I know people like to dog on Eagle Claw because it's cheap stuff, and you're right, the regular Eagle Claw brand stuff is cheap stuff and it's kind of junky. These are the laser sharp brand that they make, and they are much higher quality than the regular Eagle Claw stuff, and they are chemically sharpened. Here's the package. L2 needlepoint octopus, size 4. These come in a pack of 57. I think this is like $6 or $7 for this pack. One pack of these lasted me all season. I like these hooks. I just like them. They do a good job. And let's talk a little bit more about the hooks. So, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter that much what hook you use, as long as the point is super sharp. I think sharpness in a hook is probably the most important thing. The actual shape, or whether it's offset or not, or what the barb looks like, I think that matters less than the fact that the hook point is super sharp. And that's what you get with these chemically sharpened hooks. The chemically sharpened hooks are sharper than you're ever going to get with a mechanically sharpened method. It just is. It's just sharper. And I don't sharpen my hooks when I catch maybe half a dozen fish on a hook. I'll get rid of this hook and just grab a new fresh one. Or if it gets dinged up or something, I'll just get a fresh one. And I mean, these are sharp. Scratch your nail, no problem, right out of the package. So with the hooks, in my opinion, you know, the shape of the hook or the heavy gauge. Welcome to Iowa, where they blow a siren at noon every day. Okay, so as I was saying, in my opinion, super sharp hook is the most important thing rather than the shape. I don't know, I'm sure people have disagreements, but that's okay. You use what you want to use and I'll use what I want to use. So, enough of the hook. Let's get to this line here. As I said, this is 30-pound braid going from the hook up to the swivel. And the key part of this, in my opinion, is the length. As you can see, it's pretty darn short. It's about 2.5 inches here. It's about 2 really. And the main point behind that being short is if you have it longer than that, you're going to get tangles more often. I just know that from experimenting with different lengths of leader here. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. When you've got this baited up, this part right here is the heaviest part of the whole rig, right? You've got lead here and bait here. So when you cast it out and it falls through the water column, this is going to be up like this, and your line's also going to be up like this. So it's falling kind of like that, down this direction. So if this is long, way out there, this is going to end up getting wrapped around here, and you can leave your line out there for an hour and reel it in and see that you have this, and oh, you've been tangled the whole time and you didn't even know it. And so I just exaggerated. The line's never going to do that naturally, you know, get that close. But the point is to make your leader line short enough so that it won't reach up and hook this line. As you can see here, it's the end of the hook cannot reach up to here. So that prevents a lot of tangles. And that's why I like to choose short. You can go even shorter if you wanted, really. I kind of made this one maybe a little bit too long. Anyway, some people like to take their hook bait and they stuff it in the pack bait. When you see people using those European style method feeders that have the sinker on the bottom, and they stuff their hook bait into that, and that's fine. But for this rig, I don't like to do that, because as you can see, there's no bottom here. If I stuff this in the pack bait right here and throw it out, I have no way of knowing if the hook bait is on the bottom or the top. For all I know, if I cast it out, the hook bait might be buried underneath the rig like that, which renders the rig pretty much completely useless for catching fish. So I leave it dangling off the end. So when it's out in the water, I've got my pile of pack bait right here, and you know, some pieces of corn or a boiler or something just sitting 2 inches away from the pile of pack bait. Seems to work pretty good for me. Okay, so enough about the leader. Make it short. That's really all you need to do. Hook needs to be sharp. Leader needs to be short. Okay, the swivel, not too much you can say about it. It's a small barrel swivel. I try to get away with the smallest swivel that I can. I don't know what size this is. It's a small swivel. It doesn't really warrant a lot of discussion. Okay, the spring feeders. And let me grab one here. I buy these spring feeders off of eBay. They're you know, a through line design. The line slides through, and they're pretty tough squeezing from the sides. They don't collapse very easy at all. They're pretty tough, and they're spring. They come in 2 different sizes. Here's the large, what I've been using, and the most recent order I made were these smaller ones. I was kind of not crazy about the smaller ones, but I guess that's what they're selling now. But anyway, with the smaller ones, I'll probably take 2 of them and stack them on top of each other on the line. But I think these ran for, I think it's like $7 or $8 for a pack of 10 of them. They're vastly cheaper than those European style method leads that you can find. So that's the spring feeder. The pack bait gets packed around there. Sometimes I'll pack it just on the spring feeder. Sometimes I'll just pack bait all around, both the sinker and the spring feeder. And if you want to know some easy pack bait recipes, I've got another video specifically on that. It's 5 pack bait recipes that are just quick and easy to make from grocery store ingredients. And I'll put a link to that up here and also in the description. And above the spring feeder then is a 1-ounce egg sinker, and that is held in place from sliding by a tiny split shot. This is monofilament line is my main line, 20-pound monofilament. And it doesn't, the split shot doesn't, you know, as long as you don't smash it on there, it doesn't really damage the line for monofilament. I have noticed with braid, if you're using braid for your main line, when this split shot, you know, the split shot will inevitably move up and down a little bit. When you catch a fish, most of the time, you know, it's going to be up here like that, because that fish has been, you know, really putting a lot of force on that rig and slamming that sinker up against the split shot. But mono seems to do fine. It doesn't really chew up the mono as long as you don't smash that split shot on there. But with braid, it does seem to chew up, and I have a different solution for braid here. So for braid, I've been using these little rubber bobber stops and a bead above the sinker, and that can slide up and down on the braid all day long, and it's not going to tear it up. These are the little rubber bobber stops I'm talking about, and that works pretty good on braid. It keeps that the sinker and the feeder from sliding up the line without chewing up the line. And you may be wondering, what's the point of having a split shot here to keep these items from sliding up and down the line? And that's because this is a bolt rig. The whole idea behind this is that when the fish picks up the bait and gets that hook in their mouth, the weight of this is going to set the hook for you. That fish is going to feel the hook in their mouth, and they're going to pull real quick, and that weight is going to set the hook and drive it into their mouth. So it sets the hook for you. It's called a bolt rig. When the fish bolts, it sets the hook. I have tried it with sliding without the split shot. You can catch fish like that too, but I just have so much better hookup rate if I have that fixed in place, and the bolt rig just sets the hook as soon as that fish picks it up. Now they do make spring feeders that are not that don't slide on the line, that are just a piece of wire with loops on each end. You can tie your main line to one end and your hook link to the other end, and I don't really like those very much, because what this enables to happen, say that you get a fish hooked and you're fighting them, and somehow it gets wrapped around a rock or a log or something, and your line breaks off right here. Okay, so what your line breaks off right here, the fish is swimming around with this whole thing dangling from their face, and you know, good chance that they're gonna, you know, they feed with, you know, running around on the bottom with their mouth, so they're probably gonna get this caught on some stick or in between some rocks or something on the bottom, probably die a long, slow, painful death. And the fact that this split shot is just not real difficult to move. So if that happens, if this line breaks off here and this fish still has this attached to its face, eventually when it starts bumping into things in the bottom, instead of this getting caught on something, this whole thing is going to slide and fall off the end of the line. So all the fish is left with is this, which will be much less likely, you know, they aren't going to get tangled up quite as easily. And I don't know, it just seems better. Just seems better for the fish to have it to be able to slide off if for whatever reason you have a line snap off during a fight. So with the exception of this spring feeder here, all this stuff you can find here in the USA in almost any tackle shop. And if you didn't want to order anything special like the spring feeder, an alternative is just to use a flat no-roll sinker instead of this. And like, obviously if you have a no-roll sinker, you don't need an additional sinker here. And you just use this sinker the exact same way as it would just take the place of this stuff. You can pack your bait around this sinker, and that'll work just fine. I've done this before, it works. The spring does hold on to your bait better, no doubt about that. But if you're not casting very far, this works just fine. Just to have a sinker in place of all of this. Catch lots of fish that way too. So one last thing, let me grab a piece of hook bait and show you how I put the hook baits on the hair rig here. So this is a homemade boilie that I made the other day. I'm going to rig that up on this hair rig. If you want to see how I make these, I've got a video on that too. Again, link in the description. But for baiting needle, I just use a jig head. Straighten the hook on the jig head, leave the barb intact, and I just run that straightened hook through the bait. It can be a boilie or corn, kernels of corn, or a worm, or whatever you want to use for bait. Run the needle through it. And on your hair rig, just going to run the end of the needle through the loop on the hair and catch it on the barb. And then push the bait onto the hair like so, and remove your baiting needle. And to keep the bait in place, I just use little pieces of twig. I just gather these up, a handful of them every once in a while, and keep them in my tackle box. And I'll just break off just a short little 1/4 inch piece of twig or dry grass. I'm just gonna slide it through the end of the loop on the hair rig, pull it tight. That's it. So that's how I bait the hook bait. Take the pack bait, pack it around here, cast it out, ready to catch some fish. So I hope you found that useful. If you got questions, drop it in the comments. I know there's lots of different carp rigs out there, and this is just one variation of many. This is one that I like to use about 99% of the time. Works good for me. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. See you on the next one.